Yesterday, domestic flights in the United States were grounded after an FAA system outage. But while you could have an intelligent discussion about why this happened, Jesse Waters had an exceptionally different approach. Here is what the Fox News host had to say about Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and the FAA.
And I'm not saying it's his fault.
Good.
I'm not saying he downloaded some virus from this computer and it wrecked the whole system, although I'm not ruling that out. But he sets the tone for the FAA, and the tone is woke. Because they're not spending money on these computers. These computers are 40 years old. They're changing the word airmen.
Yep.
Because a transvestite pilot might get offended. Like she's not gonna take off, or he's not gonna take off because she's called an airman.
They.
It's impossible.
Yep.
And it's transsexual.
Whoever.
Did you say transvestite?
He did. He said transvestite.
There's a word you don't hear from.
It's all right.
We'll talk about it during the commercial break.
Yes.
2023.
I just got to say, I love that he tried to correct Jesse Waters' terminology and also used an antiquated terms, transsexual. The common term is transgender for the folks over at Fox News. Next time you want to, somehow shoehorn trans people into your incoherent ramblings. But from those incoherent ramblings, we can assume that he's probably referring to the fact that in December of 2021, the FAA changed the name of their system from Notice to Airmen to Notice to Air Mission, because that's objectively true. It's more accurate. There are female pilots, and they make up about 9% of all pilots now, it's so beyond me that Jesse Waters jumped to trans people and just ignored that women exist, and that the women also sitting on that ridiculous show didn't chime in that, hey, there are people who are women pilots who are cis. Doesn't have to do with trans people, but I wouldn't expect accuracy from Fox News.
Well, you can also expect that they'll jump to the cultural wedge issue, right? And that's, if you mention trans, boom, bing, 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 they get it's a boom and a bing. Oh, and that, you get them both, right? And you're right that it obscures the real conversation you could have about a serious thing that happened. When you ground all these flights all over the country, you don't want to have a conversation about that. Instead, it becomes, of course, a cultural wedge issue conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just add here, of course, trans women are women, but they objectively make up a tiny, tiny fraction of pilots. So to just try to force them in there, you're right, exactly, Mark, is just trying to play to those cultural wedge issues. And Jesse Waters is not the only person trying to do that. Representative Andy Biggs concurred with Jesse about the name change, and this is what he tweeted. Let's pull that up. Instead of focusing on real transportation issues, Secretary Pete and his minions have focused on woke garbage like below. A regulation like this does not advance the FAA's mission to provide the safest, most efficient aerospace system in the world. And then he includes a screenshot of updating from airmen to Notice to Air missions. But they don't have to worry that much, because on the FAA's official website, they're still referred to as airmen. So you can see right here, airmen certification. So it might not have been the woke mind virus that grounded all of those planes. I don't know. I had some delays when I was traveling over the holidays. Mark, it very well could have been the woke mind virus.
Well, some scattered wokeness, unexpectedly, and it can ground your flight. That's maybe now the announcements were going to be 45 minutes late because of a woke delay. Man, it's just so. It's so sad. There are two things that are sad. It's sad that these people go to this place, but it's also, and maybe this is the sadder part to me, that this stuff is eaten up by a whole part of the culture, a whole part of the populace. But the fact that they go to this cultural wedge issue, that they go to the wokeness, it resonates, unfortunately, Ray. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's so troubling that it resonates with a big part of the culture.
Yeah, exactly. And just for everyone listening who has plans to fly in the future, don't be surprised when your pilot comes over the intercom and alerts the passengers that you're going to be going through a woke patch for the next 15 minutes or so. But
yeah.
But let's move away
turbulence due to wokeness. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Let's move away from the ridiculous Fox News musings about what caused this, and let's get into what actually happened. And to be honest, it's not exactly clear what caused the system crash, but officials have traced it back to a corrupted file And this is a statement from the FAA from last Wednesday. They said, our preliminary work has traced the outage to a damaged database file. At this time, there is no evidence of a cyber attack. The FAA is working diligently to further pinpoint the causes of the issue and take all needed steps to prevent this kind of disruption from happening again. Secretary Buttigieg also said that while there's been no direct evidence that a cyber attack was involved, we are also not going to rule that out until we have a better understanding of what's taken place. So unlike Fox News, they're waiting until they know for sure to make statements about what happened. And the computer system that failed ensures that pilots received updated information about critical safety items, including closed runways or closed airports. So that was the biggest shutdown of flights in the United States since 9/11. And I've given them a lot of grief. Let me give Jesse Waters and Representative Biggs just the tiniest shred of credit, because they are correct about one thing, and that is that the FAA desperately needs to implement major upgrades to their system. Reuters reported that the Department of Transportation, which oversees the FAA, has struggled with information technology. In 2019, a GAO report on federal government IT planning found that the Department of Transportation was one of 3 major agencies without a modernization plan. And since then, there has been some good, albeit exceptionally slow, improvements. Reuters also reported that last April, the FAA began investing $1 billion out of $5 billion set aside in the infrastructure package signed into law in 2020, and repairing and replacing key equipment in the air traffic control system, including power systems, navigation and weather equipment, and radar and surveillance systems across the country. And that is it's the step in the right direction. They need to go further in order to make sure that flights and air travel is as efficient and safe as possible. What they don't need to do is worry about being overly woke. Mark, I'll let you get the last word in on this.
I also think that, and not to be partisan about this, but look, you could have spent money on what is indeed, Ray is right, this antiquated system. These technologies need to be upgraded, so you need to spend money there. Hey, the report came in during the Trump administration. You could have spent money there, although I don't think you needed a report to know that these technologies need to be upgraded. It's been talked about for some time. So you could have had Mitch McConnell's wife, that Elaine Chao, who was Department of Transportation director at the time, you could have had her focus on that. You could have had her implement a bunch of stuff. Instead, she was busy handing out favors to McConnell's district in Kentucky and in his state in Kentucky, and essentially she was orphaning a lot of these issues that she should have been paying attention to. So all I would say is, yes, the technology needs to be upgraded, but we saw nothing in the way of upgrades in the last administration, and now money's been set aside in the new administration to get this done. It does need to get done. And lastly, I will say, and then speech over, if this were some military system that we were just throwing money at, some stealth-related thing, that would be something that would happen immediately. Of course, it would be ineffective. It would be likely money that would never leave the Beltway, as most of these military expenditures never do. But the reality is, it would be money that would be spent. So I see this as it's a symptom of an illness that we have in this country. Clearly, these technologies need to be addressed, but I'm just saying it should be more than that we wake up on a Thursday morning or Wednesday morning and address them. It should have been addressed years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a long time coming, and they should have been planning much sooner to make sure that this didn't happen. But now that it's happened, they need to get their asses into gear.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.